Here at Clever Motors, so I've gone ahead and finished planting the field. I did have to come back up here and get seeds and fertilizer to top off the cedar. What I've decided to do is I'm going to go ahead and try to test the weeding criteria. So I need to get myself the weeder. And as we've mentioned, I'm going to go ahead and get this one here because it's a good size and, you know, a kind of a reasonable trade-off. So no settings or adjustments we can do. So we're going to go ahead and purchase this. And there it is. I wasn't sure where it came out over here, but it looks like the spawn point is there. So this is now my third piece of machinery. Reasonable for picking it up. It looks normal size here. Come around over here because I realized, ooh, I hadn't done anything and set its license plate, since I'm trying to do that here in FOC, but there's no license plate on a weeder, which probably makes sense because it's not something that's normally kind of rolling down the road. It's actually elevated up, so I'm wondering what does constitute what needs a plate and what does not, because obviously the cedar can't drive itself, but obviously neither can a trailer. So if I'm hauling a, you know, say a travel trailer behind my car going on vacation, I do need a plate for that. So I'm wondering if it travels on the roadway surface. I wonder if that's the criteria. So like a bigger plow, for example, or like if I got that larger weeder, would it have a plate, because that isn't something you're able to lift. Go ahead and get this unfolded. I think it will unfold one more time. It will. And that is probably it. It is. So we will take a look here at how things line up. And we'll move this over so that I am lined up, but I'm not going to start here because this is the point I'm going to ultimately end at. But let's just take a quick look at what we've got. So I'm 50% fertilized, and you can see the yield bonus is plus 73. We were in the 90s, but I saw here that weeds are growing and I can use a weeder. I'm testing a couple things because, again, I have not run without precision farming for so long. I've frankly forgotten, but I'm not entirely sure that things have to be done the way the community here seems to think they do, and that's what I'm trying to understand, because one of the big pushes for all the folks that I've worked for has been that you have to get weeding done the same day you plant, because they feel that there is some sort of a bonus hit if you don't do that. And I think they said it was like 15%. So instead of it being 90, then in theory we'd be down into the 80s at best. But the other thing I want to see is if I wait to the next day, does that also keep me from being able to use a weeder, and then do I have to spray? We're going to lower this down and basically let this go. And, you know, not the fastest thing, but I think it's a little bit faster than my planter. I think the planter is 10 kilometers per hour. So I think that is probably because the planter is 6 and this is 7. What I'm going to do is get down to that last row, and I'm going to leave a little bit at the end, you know, so that when I get here in the morning, that I'll be able to check and see where things sit. So again, if I come out here, I have weeds. If I come back here, I should no longer have weeds. I don't. And you can see, I was going to say it was 74%, but I guess that was a little bit of a glitch, because I was gonna say you can see that I get a 1% bonus, but I don't. So here they're not there, but they're, see, so this does show 74. Does it stay at 74? It's just like that one little part of the field right there for some reason. So I'm going to go ahead and, now that you understand what I'm doing, I'm going to go ahead and keep getting this done. But, we've got another implement, and then tomorrow we're going to need one more. We're going to need to get our spreader. So I'm likely going to go with that horse that I have that will then give me the ability to do lime and fertilizer. So that will help. You can see we're kind of ripping up the grass here too with the weeder the way it works, which is fine. I don't need that grass, and plus it'll grow back in the future anyway, so it's not that big of a problem. But I'm going to keep getting this going, and then we'll be back here in the morning to see what things look like. If it isn't obvious, I've decided, because I don't know the situation on the weeding, I'm going to wait on field 35 until tomorrow, because I'm not going to take the time it takes, or 36 I should say, until tomorrow, because I'm not going to take the time it takes to plant and do this, and I don't know that I honestly could. There may not be enough time to even let me plant that and then come back and weed it if I have to do that at the same time. So that was why I'm like, you know what, I'll just get this done, and then we'll have this field, for the most part, other than the test piece, ready to go. And if I have a little bit of weeds in one area and it keeps me down, so be it. And then we'll go from there. But this is the challenge I've seen, is I've never seen that field bonus impacted with the weeds being done later. So I'm used to doing the weeds once they germinate, because when you're doing see and spray, until you see something, you can't spray it. Hence the definition. And so it would seem odd if precision farming would be leading you in a path that was actually detrimental to your weeding. And I suppose the dynamic could work differently because we don't have precision farming, but it just, again, seems unlikely. At this point, now you understand where things are at and what's happening with field 36. I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and work that tomorrow, but obviously I need to get fertilizer down at some point too, but I don't think that has to happen immediately either. But I'm going to have to be careful, because otherwise the tires become a thing, although those are only $1,000 difference, and once I buy the tires I can then swap between them without any kind of cost, so that may actually be okay. I will see you in a bit. Back next day for our experiment. Looks like it's going to rain in a few hours, but we're not harvesting, so that doesn't matter. So we're still here at 73% yield bonus. You can see we do have weeds where we didn't weed. Alright, so at this point it's telling me that I went down from 73 to 6, so I lost 10%, but the question is, now it says hoe, it doesn't say weeder. So it's going to be interesting here if I can weed this or not, because this is also going to be important. I put this down, and then we head in here, like we shouldn't be damaging. Okay, so it takes some out, but you can see it doesn't take it all out. So that is interesting. So that starts to show that they are in fact accurate. That, well, how much did it take out? It looked like it took some out, but now I'm wondering. So I'm just trying to get the part I didn't get here. I'm just wondering if I have to go over it more than once. Let me see. So now it's weeds partial. So I don't understand what hoe is. So I gained like 3%. Well, I mean, I knew I was potentially sacrificing part of the field. But I guess the question is, can I... like if I run over it again, will it let me do it? My guess is it will not. So I do need to get it all done the same day I plant. So I do have to keep that in mind. So I'm in the middle right now of trying to get some work done for someone else, because again, I'm trying to make money. So my challenge realistically is, it makes more sense for me to work for someone else right now than it does to work for myself, because I'm just not going to make as much money as I would like to do. Now, I will say, I'm working back on NF March for a farmer I worked for before, that I planted their fields probably a couple years ago. I don't think this crop is the one that I planted, almost certainly simply because I had a lime problem on that farm that I think I showed in an episode, where I left a tiny bit and then found out in FS22 you can't lime after crop grows, just like you clearly can't weed after after everything else. So the other thing I need to do at some point is fertilize, but the challenge I'm going to have is if I don't do that today, I'm going to have to use thin tires. So I'm going to need to get that spreader today too. At this point, what I want to do is run... I get my line set along the edge of the field here. So what I want to do, I'll just start right here. And the question is, do I want to plant canola or do I want to do something different? Just to have variety. It is a question that demands an answer, because the other challenge is I'm going to generate, with grain I would probably generate a lot. There's not really a reason to do anything other than canola. So I think right now I'm going to keep it simple, because I don't know if I'm going to have enough money to really do what I need to do at various points. So the good news is now I can do this. So let me turn that off for now. Let me go back here. So weeds are growing, and again, this was grass. So it was 50% fertilized, but because I'm planting over it, so yield bonus was 93. I'm getting up to the 97 here, so that's probably as much as I'd be able to do. Alright, so we will get this planting now. And I thought the weeder was faster than the planter. I did take a look while I was weeding, and in fact the planter is faster. It's 15 kilometers versus 12 for the weeder. So 37, 38 are over there. Those are potentially the other tracts that I was in. Those were the ones I was interested in. They're not potential that way, but potentially that I might expand into if they become available at some point. I've certainly let Lomeric know, but right now he was not willing to part with those. So it looks like he's just got grass on 37. Now whether that was what he was going to do, because he had just bought 37, I guess, and was just starting to get ready to work it, and was like, no, I have plans for this, and therefore he wasn't willing to part with it. But yeah, at this point I've certainly learned. Now I think if you spray, you may not need to do it right away, but spraying, I don't know, I guess they spray with the herbicide too after they plant. I mean, he plows, Lomeric plows, but the other folks go ahead and do herbicides. So it just ends up being, do I want to plow, which will take longer, I believe, or do I want to spray and or weed, which is obviously a little bit more lengthy. At this point I'd have to use a weeder, but yeah, there's no such thing that I know of as a hoe, so I'm not quite sure what that means. So there's possibility to place things down here on this end. I just don't know if I want to or not. So I'm just really not sure how I want to design things. Because I mean, I think it's relatively flat over there. I mean, to me... Okay, so Hobo's Farmer's Market is at the south end of the field. You know, if in this case it's like canola would sell, and right now that's one of my highest locations. So, because what I was debating is, would positioning my silo down there make sense? You know, the problem ends up being obviously that I would have to go pretty far for most of my crop hauling, but it at least seems to make a little bit of sense. You know, and maybe I put it near the road, although it looks like it's a little more hilly there. I don't know. Now, I will say, I do think I've isolated myself on which silo I'd like. There's a relatively affordable silo, it appears. One I've never seen before outside of Farmers Only Club. I'm sure it's just a regular mod that I just haven't come across. But for the storage capacity, for the price, I think it makes the most sense. I'm going to have to run some numbers on it and so forth. And it's significantly, I think, more affordable than my other alternatives that I was looking at. And footprint-wise, it's very compact, but yet I just like the way it's set up. I'm not gonna tip my hand yet. Just build the suspense of what I'm thinking of until we finally get to that point. But yeah, I'm starting to see an interesting path where I can head. It's just a matter of, am I going to have enough cash to do things, and how do I want to do it? So the real hiccup right now that I've been debating is, do I want to do that smaller harvester with the 6-meter header, or do I want to, you know, and then step up to something later? I mean, eventually I would definitely get a bigger harvester, but it's like, would I be better off going ahead and just renting that harvester in the interim, and once again to kind of go down the less cheaty path that it feels like to just go ahead and rent from someone here for significantly less, you know, go ahead and eat the cost. But that's where it might make sense in that case to just buy a smaller one and run it, and then have the opportunity to sell it back for less later. Because realistically, I think if I look at like the truck configuration and the header and harvester, because you're basically having to rent 4 pieces of equipment for the harvest. You're needing, you know, or I rent a trailer here that I just run with my tractor. So I mean it, but I'm looking at 3 no matter what, if I'm then renting. And you know, in that case, like if I'm doing the others, because even if I lease this, it's $5,000 for a small truck. If I wanted to lease one of these that had more capacity, it's almost $9,000. This is the trick here. I don't want to run off the field, because that would be messy. Again, I don't think I could like inadvertently plant anywhere. I've got trees and everything. I've got a lot of buffer. And again, this the land I bought, I think I raised this, and I don't know what I did, but either way I didn't hit the right button, so there we go. The land goes and even includes that building back there to some degree that I own, so I could go pretty far in there, but that's where I said, you know, the footprint, I'm going to have to see what that silo looks like, but I'm leaning toward putting the silo here, maybe toward the road, where in case I'm not delivering to hobos, I'm you know, going down, but you know, hobos is literally right behind me. Because if I look at that, you know, it's here, and that's the piece. Like, see, that building is technically in my land, but this is the sell point, the farmer's market, and then there's a bale sell point as well. Because that was part of what I was debating, is at some point, do I want to plant grain, drop straw, harvest that, and sell straw bales or something to that sell point there for the most I can get, and not necessarily haul them all over the map, but you know, just take them there, and it just becomes another form of income. Because while I've been working now, I've gotten back into survival challenge videos from Daggerwin, just kind of watching the latest ones that I have not seen, that are more than a year old at this point. But he's always very careful in those, like every little bit. Like if he had gotten this field, for example, like he would have mowed the grass and baled it up and whatever before he then turned it into a crop, because he would then use that grass to make some money. Now again, he had equipment for that, because that's one of the first purchases he makes, is he usually does some grass work to begin with after he starts out cutting trees and so forth. But in the constraints we have here in Farmers Only Club, a lot of those things don't make sense. Part of the reason he's able to do what he does is he has seasons turned off, so there is no crop calendar. Like, he can grow things whenever he wants, so it's a lot easier to turn around and say, well, I'm going to work the grass, I'm going to mow this grass, and I'm going to collect it and so forth, if you know that whenever you get around to planting you're okay. But if I miss this window in the next couple days, like, then I'm stuck waiting another few months until I can plant something again, which then I can't harvest into next year, and you know, that's not what I want to be doing. So, but my point being, like, it would be a little bit wasteful to not do the byproduct of any grain, which would be dropping straw and then doing something with that. And I'm not looking, at this point, I don't think I'm going to be getting back into animals, not anytime soon. I'm not saying I'm not ever going to do it, but like, that's not a goal right now. What I may do a little bit more of, and whether it was once again done, or that farmers just spent a little bit of money to beautify their area, like some of these folks have got a pretty nice yard, you know, including like fences and so forth. I just don't know if we're able to do that, or maybe that was what he inherited from the map there on NF March. So that is an unknown entity to me. I'm definitely, after, you know, sleeping on it, thinking about it, and working, and the fact, you know, the person I'm working for today, like, contacted me and said, hey, are you available? So I've got enough contacts out there, I think, that I have enough people asking me once in a while. So even though my normal folks both have nothing for me, and I was really looking at today as a non-income day, I've already worked 5 hours for him. The only reason I'm back here on my server is it's a harvest and it's started to rain. So I'm harvesting soybeans for him off 4 fields. And I've got 2.5 done. The biggest field is still left to go. But, you know, depending on how things go, I might have 3 or 4 more hours of work that I could have available to me. It's just a matter of will he get in and take care of it before I do? Because once again, obviously, it'd be the same as my situation. Like right now, I can't afford to pay a contractor, so I'm not going to have anybody do my work. So if I don't do it myself, it's not going to get done. But in his case, where he's choosing to pay me, just like everybody else that I've worked for, at some point they're like, no, I'll just handle it myself, because they don't want to pay the hourly rate they're paying me to get the work done. So that's obviously their prerogative. But it's going to rain there for a couple hours, so it's basically 2 slots. And there was a time when I tried, like, I waited because I didn't have to do it, and it took till the end of the hour before it switched. So given that I do need to get this done, and once again, now that I've started planting this, I know I need to finish planting and weeding before the end of the day today, and I've got less time tonight than I normally do. I may call it, say enough is enough, and I've done that time, and leave it for him to either farm out or whatever. I just don't know. But that's where this becomes a challenge, because now I know if I don't weed this, I'm going to take a crop hit, and that might be what I do, because it still might be worth it to make the money I can make over there. So, I mean, I'm still leaning toward whatever happens here. It might have been better to... It might be better to let this have a problem and just make money. Because I don't remember, I think he's one of the people that pays me $11,000 an hour. So again, that's a lot in the grand scheme of things. So I mean, I've made $55,000, which basically... now I don't have this down. I keep hitting... It's kind of like muscle memory, but I am randomly hitting one key or the other. So I lifted the implement instead of turning it off. Part of it is these are pretty long rows, so I guess it's probably worth looking at. So 36.78 acres is what we have here, and that's against 26.1 acres that I have on the other field. So this is a little bit more than 10 acres more. So obviously I've more than doubled my land, and it's like maybe 133% more land or something like that. Not quite. Well, actually, it's technically more than that. So, because because I don't know. My math is not. It'd be 8, 9. It'd be 9-ish acres. So yeah, it's close to that. 133, 140% more land than what I had. So, I've doubled and then added another 30-40% onto my existing field. The nice thing with these are, if you look at the map, as far as the way I was working this field, which is this way, this field is about as wide. It may technically be less wide, because if I rotate this and say, hey, this is my straight edge, it's really close. And so it's probably the same number of passes, but this field creates that more effective situation of work time, where that whole run down the field there was productive work time, and all I do is turn around, and I have the same number of turnarounds, but I'm covering, again, 10 plus more acres with the same number of passes, basically, is the thought. I don't know if that's accurate. Over time I'll figure that out. I didn't look at what my starting point was here. The benefit I do have here is that even though rain's coming, I can continue, but I think the rain's not coming here for like 3 or 4 more hours, so in theory I'd be off. So at minimum, probably, if I finish planting, because I basically have an hour and 20 minutes or so. Yeah, hour and 20 minutes before I've technically gotten to the point on the other server where the rain should almost definitively be stopped. But when I've, again, done that before, it's gone like 10 minutes past the hour or something, and then it's stopped. So it's just a matter of if I'm really close here, and I hope it doesn't take me an hour and 40 minutes to plant this field, but it may, because I'm realistically probably going to have to run up to the store and get more supply. I'm probably going to run out of seed. So fertilizer's getting used substantially less. The benefit here, however, is just this one time, because this was grass, there's that level of fertilization that it maintains, so I'm already going to be at the second level here. So if we look at these fields, you can see the lines I'm putting in are dark blue, so they're already at the second level. Yeah, but the thing is, the weeder is wider and faster, I believe, than a plow would be. So they're basically the same speed, but unless I went to the plow that Lomeric has, the massive one, which would require almost a 700 horsepower tractor, which I'm nowhere near being able to do, the weeder is wider than anything else I could do, and I'd need a tractor that I don't have to pull the plow right now. Because that's the thing, even the subsoiler needs 320 horsepower, and I'm not above 300 with what I have. Because, you know, one could make the argument, is what I was getting at, is that, well, I'm running across the field to plant and weed. I could just plow and plant and just run the field twice. But, you know, it's substantially less costly to do what I'm doing right now. And so the only piece that I can't fully test is there's a belief that plowing also gives some sort of a benefit. And without, you know, getting a plow or, you know, renting a plow for a second, running, you know, one row and checking the statistics, I don't really have an option there either. So, you know, you can see here, though, I'm moving across pretty quickly. But I'm going to keep this up because, once again, I want to give you an update of exactly what gets done here. Definitely will wrap the episode up at the end of the day with wherever I'm at. Hopefully I'll have weeded, otherwise I know I'm going to be taking at least a 10% hit by weeding later. And then, but I'll probably be back to purchase the spreader and get that going as well with the fertilization. But what my hope is that I can get all of the plant, get these fields ready, and that I can fertilize them together. So normally, once again, being staggered a day could help, because if I go with a smaller harvester, that was a little bit of my thinking as well, aside from that I wasn't going to work an incredibly late night yesterday. Is, you know, I can then take 2 days, but that also then is why I'm leaning toward hopefully having enough to buy a harvester that I need. And right now I'm in decent shape with the 160,000 I have, because the smaller harvester I think is only like, I think it's only 129,000, and then it's like 30,000 or for the header, but then I might or might not need a trailer. Again, it's only a 6-meter header, so I can throw it on the front of my harvester and just drive with it. It's not really that wide. So, but if I own the harvester, it doesn't matter how many days things take. But if I am renting it, it's going to cost me more to let it either sit around or rent it twice. So all kinds of decisions, but that's partially why I think it's more interesting. I have asked for feedback from some folks that I know, but nobody's gotten back to me. I think a lot of the folks that have been watching that were encouraging me to go forward were people from FSN, and they had indicated they were having some challenges in life that was giving them less time to play, so they may just have not been on and even seen my message yet. But I'm going to go away for a bit, and I will connect with you in a little while. Back on here later in the evening here. So I am going to go ahead. I've got field 36 planted, but I am going to go ahead and get my spreader tonight and come and get this field fertilized. And then my intent is to get that other field with the weeder, but you know, we'll see how that all plays out, because it may be tight, but I'm thinking with a few hours left I should be fine. It's again later than I would like it to be, but I think I'm going to kind of press on and try to get things taken care of. So I ended up working 7 hours in total on the farm that I was working on today, so I'm hoping that's going to translate into $70,000 plus. So that should get us at this point well over 100,000 in the bank, which I can then move in here, which will get me close to, you know, 300,000. I think we're, you know, like 120,000 or so is where that would put me. So it'll get me to like 270, 280. We're going to spend 55,000 plus stuff for the fertilizer here, and then that should be it, I think, before the harvester. But I should, in theory, have enough for everything, because basically, like I said, I think the harvester's 129 plus 30, so I'm at 160, which is about what I have now, and then I need 55,000 plus however much it's going to cost me to buy, at this point, 10,000 liters of fertilizer, which is what fits in that spreader that I'm targeting. And at that point, you know, I think it's a little over $1 a liter, so it'll be about $10,000-$12,000 at most, probably, if even that much. But I think I'm in good shape. You know, the challenge would be I won't have enough right now for the silo, but I've also got, it's only April, so I've also got a few months, 3 or 4 months, till I need to do that, and so I certainly will look for some contracts tomorrow, things like that, to see if I can make a few extra bucks here and there. So I'm also going to stop at the gas station before I pull in, because I forgot to do that last time. I repaired, but I did not do anything with the fuel. So we'll get fuel bought here. That'll be a few $100s. It's usually, fuel's actually pretty reasonable in everything we've got to deal with. So there we go, 225. But what I'll probably do is target contracts like first thing in the morning tomorrow, because at this point, once I get this done tonight, I just have to come in tomorrow and fertilize that other field, which I'm hoping should be pretty quick. So we know it's going to appear over here, but let's go into the shop. So I'm looking at this horse fertilizer spreader. I'll go ahead and customize that. So again, I've shared with you guys, I like orange, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make this orange. And yes, it cost me an extra 1,500 bucks for that, but you know, these are things that I'm going to be living with for a while, so I think it's worth it. And again, at reasonable rates, 1500 is, 10 minutes a time or whatever, if even. So I can do that. I think that'll work. So let's see. So I don't want lime, I want fertilizer. But the important thing is it will take lime, which is the most important thing that I have available to me here. So, like I said, it's going to cost me a bit to get what I need here as far as the fertilizer. Goodness. Alright, 14,000. So that's right, it's $1.44 for the bulk. But keep in mind that is in contrast to paying $1,820 for 1,000 liters if I buy it in a pallet. Nice thing with this is I can close things, so that is good. But, pretty big tracks. So I think even if I put thin tires on, the challenge with this is I think the latest I'm going to be able to get on the field is that first growth stage. And then after that, I think I'm relatively stuck. So I need to obviously do that tonight, which is why I'm focused on that more. The weeding is important, but I'm going to lose 10% if I don't get weeding done, but I'm going to lose about 25% if I don't get the second stage of fert on here. And obviously if I get the second stage of fert on by destroying my crop because I'm running over it, that's not going to help anybody. But I'm hoping 10,000 liters. That should be pretty good, because I think I only spent like 3,000 liters when I did it my second round last time, and I had to go ahead and pay for those supplies and so forth. So I don't think it was that substantial, so I think I'll be in pretty good shape. And I don't think this has quite the throw that the other... actually, I'm doing this, but I don't know that this will work. But yeah, that is a nice throw. Like, that will go quickly on my field. So yeah, from where I need to be and where I'm at, like, this isn't actually that long of a run. It's actually not bad. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to want to line this up with the field, because right now that's not what I've got going on. So let's see. Let's try to get something along the edge here. Obviously, I'm not destroying crop, which is, of course, key. Alright, that gets me close. And then we'll go over here, and we'll line up. And then we will start throwing things around. So basically, after this, all I'm going to be doing is weeding. So once I get done babbling with you here, that will be the plan. Whoops, not quite. Got a little bit hanging out there. I definitely don't want to not get credit. So let's do this, and then let's see how our horse operates here. There we go. That looks much wider than what it appears to be. It almost seems like there's an error, but maybe not. Maybe it doesn't spread further, but man, it looks like it's throwing wider, because it says 36 meters. It's got me at 36 meters, but man, that looks like it's throwing further than that. Let me take a look at the map here. It's just hard to tell because obviously it's you know, going ahead and doing that. But yeah, this absolutely looks like it's throwing further than that. Well, maybe not. No, I guess it's... If you look at the dark on the field, it is right to that line. So we'll take a look again up here, see what everything looks like. But if I look at that here, and again, I'm really looking at that edge. Yeah, it's throwing. The animation is further than that, but yeah, it's throwing at that distance, so that's fine. Just not animated as well as we would like with that. So always a good indicator there. But yeah, this is not going to take a lot of passes. I mean, at this point, I'm like, next time by, I think I'm basically going to be halfway through the field. So I like the purchase. I like this bit of kit here for certain. It's going to help immensely, and this is certainly worth it because, as I said, it does both of the things I need to spread. And so at this point, like, this sets me up. Like, this is a good investment. Rather than buying a couple little things that, you know, I can put less than 4,000 liters in, and I need 2 different units for fertilizer and lime, and I'd be saving $2,000. Like, to me, that ends up being a no-brainer. I mean, at some point, it just doesn't make sense to put yourself through that. But if we go here, we'll see. You know, it's not quite half. I guess you could argue area-wise it may be, but next pass is going to get me definitely over the middle of the field. But everything looks pretty solid there, and that's the most important thing as we go forward. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. I think at this point, you've seen everything I can show you. And as I said, we're going to keep plowing along. I'm going to keep looking for some work in what I'll call the off season here. Again, Lomeric is off, so there's nothing coming from him. I may have been able to prune the grapes, but since he said he wasn't doing anything this year, it didn't seem like that made sense because I think the grapes would then wither again. So we just have to reprune them, so I'm not sure that he'd be too keen on paying me to prune grapes that then weren't getting harvested. So, in any event, that was, you know, maybe an hour or two that I could have gotten paid for as well, but he didn't really specifically say, hey, get that done. I mean, it was on the work list, but that was before he then said he was leaving, so I was a little confused and didn't want to bother him as he was heading out of town. I was more focused on, hey, the time I got with him, if I could get this field, that was kind of the important investment at this point. So I'm going to get this done, but at this point I am going to wrap things up now that you've seen what we've gotten here and added to the farm. So this is now our 4th piece of kit that we've gotten added here, and you know, stuff is growing here on Misty Hills within FOC. So I will see you next time.